Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2018 movie named Peppermint starring Jennifer Garner. Keep alert, spoilers incoming. The movie opens in Los Angeles at night with a fight inside a car. Riley North is fighting a gangster who she informs that he doesn't remember her. She shoots him dead and drags the corpse to the car trunk. Riley goes to an impoverished neighborhood where she hides out. Some neighboring kids seem to admire her, and always waits beside her van to wave at her. She enters her van where she gets some medical equipments. She tends to her leg wound and has a drink before going through her belongings, and out falls a box of Girl Scout cookies. She gets a 5 years flashback while with her daughter named Carly. Shortly they get followed by another woman named Peg with her daughter and open up an argument with them. Peg blames Riley for selling on their turf, but Riley ignores them, but Peg insults them before leaving. Carly tells her that she would have punched her, but Riley advises her never to be mean. We get introduced to Chris, who over the phone it's revealed that he has financial problems and needs some money. He is Carly's father, who Riley drops at his place as they plan on celebrating her birthday that night. Most of the kids were invited and Riley promises to leave work earlier. Riley goes for work at her bank, but her boss informs her that she would be closing lately, but he would compensate the overtime. Chris gets approached by his friend named Mickey, who wants him to get involved in a robbery from one cartel. With his financial problems, Mickey promises him that it's a life-changing deal. Riley goes home for Carly's birthday party only to find her and Chris disappointed because nobody showed up. Thanks to Peg, who spitefully threw a holiday party and invited all the other kids but left a voicemail just to taunt Riley and Carly. Riley decides not to let Carly stay sad, so she suggests they all go to the Christmas carnival. As they head out, Chris calls Mickey to tell him he's backing out of the deal because it is risky. The family leaves, but they are watched by a gangbanger who calls his cartel boss named Diego Garcia, who gives him an order to kill Chris. Mickey is being tortured after Diego learned that he wanted to steal from him and shortly behead him. The family is enjoying the carnival, though they are being followed. They move to get ice cream with the gangbangers setting themselves. While leaving the ice cream shop, Riley moves back to get a napkin. While approaching their vehicle, the gangbangers begin to shoot at Chris and Carly. Riley notices the terror ongoing but gets shot at too, though she manages to crawl and reach her family, who are already dead. The police has arrived and Riley gets taken by an ambulance as Detective Stan Carmichael examines the scene. His partner named Beltran approaches him and informs him that it can't be easy on their side. Later on, Riley wakes up in the hospital and Stan approaches her. He informs her that some suspects have been apprehended but could be released if they don't get any evidence. He tells her that the saga was linked to Chris, who was in the plans of robbing Diego. He gives Riley the photo booth pictures she took with Chris and Carly, which makes her recall everything. Riley is brought in to identify the gangbangers and she recognizes all three of them by their face tattoos. Beltran approaches Stan and warns him to go slow on the case because the last detective who stood in Diego's path got killed. While packing Chris and Carly's things, Riley gets visited by an attorney named Henderson. He informs her that she can't do anything to return her family, so he attempts to bribe her. He wants her to drop the testimony on the criminals that he is representing. Riley chases him out of the house, but she notices her medication and warns her that she won't get justice. Riley is brought in to testify against the gangbangers, but Henderson tries to use the medication thing against her by saying her memory was hazy and that she is mentally unfit to remember them. She calls the district attorney to help her, but Judge James Stevens rules against Riley's favor and lets the killers walk. Riley snaps and tries to attack the gangbangers, but she is tossed by the bailiff and the killers laugh in her face. Riley is being wheeled away to a psych ward and Stan hops in to join her in the ambulance. She grabs an oxygen tank and whacks Stan across the head, and then runs out of the ambulance, disappearing. On present day, Stan has arrived at a scene where he meets Beltran, who shows him 3 dead bodies hung upside down from a Ferris wheel. They are the 3 gangbangers that were involved in the death of Chris and Carly. At the Department of Justice, it is learned that one woman broke into a gun shop and stole some guns. They got the fingerprints and identified her to be Riley, hence calling Stan for a meeting with the FBI. In her van, Riley sets her guns ready and other items as well as an armored vest. She looks at her family photo and later moves out of the van as the kids look at her. FBI detective named Inman meets with Stan and Beltran and informs them that Riley is suspected to be behind the killings. Riley goes to the home of Judge Stevens and ties him up after beating him and nailing his hands to the table. It is learnt that Riley has been traveling through different countries using different aliases while fighting in MMA. Later on, when she returned to USA, she broke into a shop and stole some guns. It is learnt that it's now a 5-year death anniversary of her family. Riley makes sure Stevens remembers her, and she tells him that the rope he's tied up with is explosive. She picks up one toy and moves out, telling him that he didn't put up justice after the death of her family. Riley hops on a bus and then detonates the rope, blowing Stevens up. Shortly, Stan receives a call that the judge and district attorney that were on Riley's case have been reported dead. The scene jumps to a warehouse where some cartel businesses are being operated. Diego gets informed about the death of the judge and district attorney, and he orders his men to go finish off Riley. On the bus, Riley meets a young boy, and she gives him a toy that she swiped from Stevens' home. She notices the boy's father is drunk, and as they get off the bus, the man enters a liquor store while his son waits outside. Riley pistol whips the guy and orders him to not ever drink again and to be a good father or she will find him, since she saw his ID and remembers his address. She then forces the clerk to give her his car, but she at least gives him money for it. This is Marvin, one of the workers for Diego, who Riley is stealthy spying on. She disguises and moves outside a piñata store where she kills the 2 men guarding the entrance before moving inside. She starts to spy on them, though they are busy counting their cash, unaware of her presence. She proceeds upstairs where she finds the gangsters in a room and break its door handle to avoid them from using it. A shootout starts and some of them disperse, and when some of them approach her, she shoots them dead. She then jumps down and shoots more of them while they are looking for her. She dispatches most of them with expert marksmanship, even the ones in the room except one, Marvin, who she interrogates. Later, Marvin reports to Diego what happened, and it is revealed that she forced him to spill how Diego's businesses operate. He orders his men to find Riley and finish her, though over the news the crime patterns are being linked to Riley. The detectives are now on the scene, though Beltran warns Stan not to fall for Inman. Inman informs them that since Riley arrived 3 months back, she must be having a base of operations which they need to find. Marvin has been killed for spilling his guts to Riley, and afterwards Diego senses that Riley might be going for their laboratory, assuming Marvin told her about it. He then arranges his men to lure Riley to the warehouse. Riley has arrived at the warehouse already and sets her gun ready, though the detectives are looking out at the places with a high crime rate. The people over the social media are in support of Riley after learning what she went through. Riley moves inside the warehouse, but while moving around she notices a bomb trap as some gangsters are tracking her. She runs away as the warehouse gets exploded in hopes of killing her inside. Inman notices a suburb with a changed crime pattern, though they get notified about the explosion. Riley gets out through the sewers and steals someone's car so she can go after the guys, who have no clue that she is still alive. They report to Diego that the work is done, which makes Diego happy, but Riley is pursuing them. Inman has moved to the area where she suspects to be Riley's base of operations. She approaches one man who informs her that the crime rate is low in the area because they got an angel showing her Riley's painting. Riley drives past the gangsters and waits for them ahead. Surprisingly, she attacks them and kills them after interrogating them. She drives to Diego's home and shoots more men at the entrance. She proceeds inside with a trap of their own vehicle and shoots down more men who doesn't seem to allocate her position. She continues to dispatch them while moving inside the house and search for Diego. She engages more men inside the house, not until when she meets Diego, who tries to shoot her but run out of bullets. She has her gun turned on him, but before she can pull the trigger, Diego's daughter, who looks about the same age as Carly when she died, walks in. Diego stabs diverted Riley in the side and gets out with his daughter and his men. With the police approaching, Riley also flees, though injured. She moves to Peg's house and punches her before moving inside to tend to her wound. Riley has Peg tied up, pointing out that Peg's husband left her for another woman. She threatens Peg and even makes her piss herself that she is gonna burn down her house with her inside. She leaves her tied and drive away within her car. The police is at the crime scene at Diego's house, and Beltran complains that Stan is not picking his calls. Stan meets Inman, who happens to have found Riley's van loaded with guns. She informs him that they would be putting up surveillance to get Riley alive, but Stan reveals he is a dirty cop by shooting Inman dead. He then calls Diego and informs him that he knows the whereabouts of Riley. Weakened by the injury, Riley falls down, though Diego has arrived with all his men to meet Stan and begin the search everywhere. While down, Riley happens to hear Carly waking her up, hence standing to run away. She kills one man whom she gets a pistol from with the hunt still on. When they get close to her hiding spot, she moves out and shoots them down. Diego tries to call his men over the walkie-talkie, but instead Riley replies and warns them to leave the people of the area. The FBI tried to call on Inman's phone, but no one is picking it up. Riley hears it and moves to the dustbin where she picks it from. Over the news, Riley is streaming live exposing Stan and Diego for the scumbags they are, and Beltran has also witnessed it to head out to the location. Diego then calls Riley out using a walkie-talkie and orders her to come out or he will execute a little girl from that neighborhood. Riley surrenders and approaches Diego and tells them to let the girl go. She thanks her for saving her, and then Diego starts to beat Riley. Despite his effortless beatings, Riley keeps on mocking him that he fights like women. Suddenly the police arrives in the area and Diego shoots Stan dead, thinking he sold him out. Beltran finds Stan dead and moves to pursue Diego. Diego, who is fleeing, falls into Riley, who hits him down and put him at gunpoint. Beltran and other agents arrive and Beltran begs her not to shoot Diego because they would handle him. Diego taunts her, hence Riley shooting him dead, and the police return the fire. Riley manages to flee, and after a thorough search without seeing her, Beltran confirms he knows where she has gone. The cops find Riley at the cemetery at Chris and Carly's grave. She breaks down weeping as Beltran approaches her, and Riley feels she is ready to die there. Beltran calls for the ambulance, and later Riley is seen in the hospital. The news reports on how civilians see Riley as some kind of heroic vigilante, but the police say she will answer for her crimes. Beltran walks into Riley's room and tells her that she deserves a medal because she killed the gangsters and exposed the dirty cops. He slips a key into her hand, letting her remove her handcuffs and escape once again, bringing the movie to the end. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.